am so excited for this guest episode. I am chatting it up with Monique Shields, a dear friend, executive coach, founder, and podcast host of Ambition Without Compromise. She is committed to liberating the professional imaginations of women of color founders and CEOs because she understands what it means to move through fear and distraction to clarify, communicate, and act on a unique definition of success that refuses to compromise on what matters most. We had such an incredible conversation, so many gems. Monique shares how she healed her hustle, and among so many other things, we talk about how for folks of color, Black and brown folks, hustling can sometimes feel like a prerequisite for success. I hope you have as much fun listening to this episode as I had recording it. Dig in. Welcome, welcome, welcome. I am so excited to be chatting with one of my business besties and all around badass that I love so much and admire so deeply, Monique Shields. How are you?
I'm well. I'm so glad to be here. This has been like a dream in the making for a minute. So I'm so excited that this moment has birthed itself.
Yes. Right before this, Monique and I were just talking about how we've been talking about launching a podcast for some time. And it's just like so wild to, finally see like the fruits of your labor and the commitment to self and being in integrity with your vision and desires. And I'm here for it.
Okay.
Awesome. So let's jump right in. Talk to us a little bit about your definition and relationship with the word hustle.
Hustle for me tends to bring up more negative connotation. I think it's one of the things that I actually love about how you have titled this podcast, because there's like a reclaiming, I know, because I know you, of what hustle can be. And I think hustle at its best can be just about being alive, like being in the energy of a thing that is moving, like when the pace of, I don't know, passion is ignited and it's like, you're like in a flow. I think like hustle in its best form is like a state of flow, an energetic state of flow. But I do think that, it has come to mean like really unhealthy self-sacrifice, and like how can I like reduce myself to just being a factory? Like how can I just be a producer of things nonstop and ignore my humanity? So that's like what I first think of, because I think like the popularized like culture around like hustle has been that, and the conversation's also been led by majority white men. So
listen, come on with the nuance. Yes, absolutely. We're here for it. Absolutely. And so, I think that, one of the things that I love about some, like what you talk about on your podcast, is about how you can really evolve, right? And you can like really give yourself that permission to evolve, pivot, like whatever term, works for you. And so I'm curious, especially because of your very interesting background, how has your relationship with hustle evolved, right? If you can give us like kind of what it was like before, what happened, did something happen that caused you to be like, hold up, something here ain't working? And then, we heard a little bit about kind of what it's like for you now.
Yeah. So let's see the evolution of hustle over my timeline. I'd say it started from like early childhood academic achievement. Like we're really trained to perform in this really externally directed way. And it's kind of necessary. Like that's the way the system is set up. That's how you get through. And I was like a straight A kind of student. Like I got my good grades and I prided myself on that. Like, as part of like my like good girl identity. Like it was a part of like me being a good person, being a good student, was just to make sure I was always on top of the things. And nowhere really in that kind of hustle is there any space for why does everything deserve this level of, personal application, like, applying yourself in this way in like this universal manner? Is that, so there's just wasn't a lot of space for questioning because, I'm a little Black girl trying to like make sure that I'm set up for the colleges of my choice so that I can ensure certain, safeties and things like that are in place for me when I enter into the workforce. I'm trained up this way. My parents, the way that they knew to help protect me and ensure a future where I could, direct myself. And so it started early. And I think that things evolved for me in two ways. Like, in all honesty, I had gotten a job. I worked in finance in a couple of different companies, but one of the companies I fell into depression. And that's when I got my first therapist and started asking some big questions around life that I had never known to ask. Like, I thought of myself as a pretty reflective, introspective person, but
Yeah.
therapy, a great therapist, can kind of flip your world upside down. And I fell into this depression and I just didn't care. I was like, well, we're going to do the bare minimum out here because I ain't got it. And also, like, what am I doing it for? So I was bringing home my 6-figure paycheck and just kind of coasting along. It didn't last that long because I ended up transitioning and moving out to California with my husband. And I recognized that both of us wanted this change in our lives and careers. So that kind of was like this turning point just in life, in career, in my personal understanding of who I am and just the seeking of what I want that helped me, I guess, attach more nuance, like you used that word nuance before, to the why behind the hustle. Like, I just questioned things more the more I sort of gave myself space to ask, like, how is this treating me? Like, not just what can I give, but what am I receiving from what I put out? I did have my like startup days where I was extremely activated by the mission of the work. I had a great team, like one of the most positive work experiences I've ever had as an employee. And the hustle was real. I was like sacrificing sleep and wellness. But I'll tell you what kicked me in the ass after that was having a baby. And new motherhood will sit you down. It will sit your hustle down for you. Okay. And so it did. And I was like, oh, I can't operate like this. This is not sustainable in any long-term fashion at all. And so again, new questions. And that brought me to entrepreneurship, where it's just like, oh, hustle can't just be hustle for hustle's sake. Like, I want to work in a way that feels like I am applying myself, like I am engaged. I guess that's a better word. Like, I want to feel engaged with work. And sometimes that comes with some more intensity in certain seasons than others. But I'm engaged with the thing that matters to me and that fits with the overall life that I'm building. So yeah, girl, a few things kicked me in the butt to kind of help me get there. But I also think just like with age and wisdom, you just have a different perspective on life. Okay.
Because this is what our conversations and our text messages sound like all the time. Yes, all the time with the voice notes. Yes. My gosh, you said so many good things. I'm just like, where are my Post-its? I have to write this down. But I do want to go back to what you said about almost like how hustle was a requirement, for some of us who maybe, didn't have access, right? Like, didn't have the networks, like didn't just have the things, right? And I think that it's like such a good point to highlight because to your point earlier, people online can be like, fuck hustle, like we can't do that anymore, right? Which is, it drives me up a wall because it's like, folks, can we just like pause and just let's look at the texture here, right? The nuance here. We have to like move away from this like black and white, it's either good or bad. It's like, let's really look at the context. And I'm sure you see it with your clients, and obviously you've seen it with yourself, how for certain folks who have certain background, it's like, the bootstrap and pulling ourselves up the bootstrap. Like we gotta build the whole shit. Like where's my little sewing machine? I gotta sew the boot together and
Right.
you know, and put it on. So like I don't even know how do you make a shoelace, you
Right.
know? But like let me go ahead and gather all the materials because I'm building the thing from the ground up. And so I just wanted to highlight that because you know, sometimes you got to do what you have to do until you could do what you want to do. And what I really loved about what you said is that you had these experiences that kind of jolted you, right? It was like a little zap, and you took it, right? Like you took that. You were like, hold up, there's something here. I have to be curious here. I have to find the help. I have to do something, right? Because this is not working. And I think that that's what sometimes scares me when it comes to like other people. When I think about other folks, entrepreneurs, leaders, where it's like, I get it, right? Startup culture, you kind of have to, it's just a par for the course, but not forever, right? It's not sustainable. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think that like our relationship to sacrifice is it's tricky. And I feel like I'll find like a piece of the answer for myself, like here and there, but that's a hard one to navigate. It just is because no one can ever convince me that you don't have to apply yourself, work hard for a thing. Like you do have to, as I said, engage. And sometimes that requires some kind of short-term sacrifice. But I think we take it too far or we do it too long. But it's hard to like, well, how do you know? And like, I think that's one of the biggest challenges, I think, especially as women of color, especially Black and brown women, like that we face. It's really hard to draw those lines because I feel like we've been forced to operate in these extremities for so long that it's like, well, I've seen I can do it. I don't understand this whole, let me temper that. Like, no, I'm just going to handle my business, but we're killing ourselves.
Yeah, it's baked in, right?
Yeah.
It's baked in, socialization, right? You think about culture, right? Strong Black women, the matriarch, right? Like there's all of these themes, and the constant, the thread is always the over giving, the self-abandonment, right? Like it's all kind of related. So yeah, like I think that's in part of like why our work is so important. It's legacy building, it's like pattern breaking, because it's like it's giving folks permission to really build the thing in the way that they want, right? It's not like we're going to forget the ways that our mothers and our grandmothers and our tias, did the thing. It's like, yeah, no, I respect all of that, but there's just some shit that's not coming. I'm sorry, baby, but you're going to stay in that generation.
Yes.
I love you, but sorry, you can't come.
Yes, it took too much.
So talk to me about kind of what parallels have you seen, in your own journey and that of the women that you coach, between like vision setting, success, achievements, like what some folks might even consider like the outward external things, and healing work, right? I'm curious to hear kind of how you define healing work. I love, and for those of you that have not listened to her podcast, you have got to listen to it. I love how you spoke about the differences between coaching and therapy, for example, which I think is just so important, and people just like really need to understand it. Every coach and therapist should have their own definitions. But yeah, like what parallels have you seen between like the seemingly external things and the healing internal work?
The inner work. Yeah. I mean, honestly, at this point, it's not like explicitly on an application somewhere where it's like you have to have seen a therapist or be seeing a therapist in order for us to do this work together. But it's night and day in terms of the kinds of outcomes, the willingness you have, that your coachability, like you got to be in process with that stuff. You can't be like, hey girl, both my legs are broken, but can you teach me to run a marathon? No, baby, I can't. No. What are we talking about? No. We have got to give some time and attention to the things inside of us that That's the foundation. Like, what we talking about, you know? And so I have very, very strong feelings about this. I mean, a big part of, I think, why I have like level of sensitivity around is because that startup I was working at was a mental health startup. And so I just got grounded in this work. Like, I had a clinical director and we had clinical advisement. And I was just like, okay, like this stuff's got to work hand in hand, this coaching and therapy thing. I truly believe that we
Yes.
need and deserve, and I know it's not always easy, access isn't always easy, but we deserve it. Not only how you're able to like grab onto the coaching and to do something with it, your coach is not there to just tell you what to do with your life and how to want things, but the stuff that's going on inside of you, it's directing your wanting, it's directing your direction. And so you'll sit up with the coach and you'll set a course and you be like, coach, let's go. And coach will be like, okay, let's go. But you set it from this place of air quote brokenness. You know what I mean? Like, not to say that we're ever like air quote fixed. I don't believe in that either. But you know what y'all know what I'm getting at.
Yeah.
You coming from the hurt place, you setting the hurt destinations. And a coach can't break you out of that. You got to get into healing. I do believe that. I think there's a beautiful symbiotic relationship between coaching and therapy. I think the both can be going on and should be going on at the same time. That's how I move through my life. I have a coach and a therapist in tandem most of the time, all the time. You know, one of the biggest benefits of coaching is to like really help you amplify that voice that's already there, that vision that's been seeded. Yeah, if it's really tainted with a lot of unexamined stuff and a lot of like hurt that has not been addressed. And again, this is also, I want to make sure I'm being very, very clear that there is no place of arrival with therapy or coaching. So it's not like, let me make sure I'm air quote fixed before I go to hire a coach. No, that place never comes. But to be in the work, to be in the engagement of it, you know, to have some of that awareness already. Like, my clients will leave sessions, and I'm sure Josie, your clients do the same thing, where they'll like leave a session, like, I'm going to take this into therapy. Or if you had, obviously you've been on both sides, on the therapy side, therapy clients probably like, oh, I'm working with the coach, you know, this has everything to do with this goal that I'm setting, right? They really do work hand in hand, and that you don't have to be at a place of like perfection or arrival to do either, but you want to be in process. I firmly believe that.
No, absolutely. And I really, really love what you were saying about, you know, how these two things, like, they're not in competition, you know, and of course, you know, you look online, or I don't know if it's because of the kind of worlds that I straddle, even though like I am leaving the therapy space more and more, but you know, there's always this competition, like it has to be one or the other. There's always this binary, kind of going back to like hustle. There's only one way and one is better than the other. And it's just like, why can't it be both? And I think for entrepreneurs, right, folks who are leading movements, you know, companies, organizations, people, it's just so incredibly important. To me, it feels like common sense. And I don't want to sound like an asshole, but to me, I thought this is just what everybody did. And then I got into the coaching space and I was like, oh, love, what is occurring? What is happening here? I have my own thoughts and kind of hunches as to like why that is, but it just feels so tight sometimes and so rigid, right? That there's only one way to get to be. There's only one way to get to whatever goal. There's only one way to lead and to feel whole in all of that. So I just feel really validated because, you know, I feel exactly the same in terms of you need both. You can be seeing both a therapist and a coach and, you know, feel like you might have come to like the end with your therapist or your coach, and then you're just seeing the other. And then there might be a time where you then, you know, tap into a therapist again or a coach again. There's no formula, but I think it's more so the awareness that we are multidimensional people. We're going to need multidimensional support.
Yes.
You know, it's not just like one thing.
Totally. Our timelines are dynamic. It's the same like if you were seeing like a physical, you know, doctor, like, I need to see the podiatrist for this season. Okay, now my feet are good. Okay, I'm actually doing great. Oh no, my eyes. I need to go see, you know, the ophthalmologist or whatever. Like, we should just be in a flow of support and care, period. Period.
A flow of support and care. Ooh, we need to put that somewhere.
There we go.
On a t-shirt, a quote card, or for social. somewhere.
Yeah.
But, and also in your work and, giving your personal experience, what do you think gets in the way of that flow of support and care, especially for Black and brown folks, founders, entrepreneurs, leaders? Like, what are either like the outside messages? What are the internal struggles? Like, what's getting in the way, in your opinion?
It's myriad, and that is the problem. Like, the answer is vast. Like, the world is coming at us from so many angles, y'all. Like, I don't even have to tell y'all that. You know that. So, the systemic barriers to accessing care, like there are structural things in place to keep us from taking care of ourselves, to keep us from focusing on what we need. But then I think, with my practice really being explicitly focused on Black and brown women, and a lot of them being mostly CEOs and founders, that cultural narrative around where your worth, your strength comes from, that self-sufficiency, right? Just clinging a lot too tightly to that. And knowing, because like my clients will come to me at a point where it's like, I know I'm clinging too tightly. Y'all can't see me on the audio, but like I'm clinging, like clenching my fist right now. But it's like, I don't know how to relax my hand. Like it's like, I can see it. Like, I know I have been exposed. I intellectually know, but I do not know how to relax this clench. And that, I think, is, I don't know, like I guess the best sort of metaphor I can think of right now for what is happening with leaders in particular in these positions, women of color who are in leadership, where it's like this has kept me alive. Like what's in my fist right now, that has kept me alive. You telling me to loosen my grip? Girl, are you crazy? Like, I will do no such thing. I will do no such thing. This is my lifeline right here. And it's like, how can we begin to do, and that's partially why I think it's so important to have both the therapy and the coaching, like, because the reason that pinky finger is down is a different reason than that ring finger is down. You know what I mean? It might be, there's some pain, there's some stuff from the past that you need someone who's equipped to help you navigate that, to help you like loosen that one finger, and the next and the next, the next. And there's that, like, which is like, it's very scary, because of, it feels like abandoning your safety, but it also is abandoning a very like fully formed identity, where it's just like, well, I don't know who I am if I'm not this clenched fist girl either, like I've always been this person. So it's just a lot. It's too much for you to do, I think, alone. To let go of all those things that have kept you through however many trials and tribulations you've been through to get to where you are, and the identity that you formed around that, and what it means about you, and all the habits have come. Like, it's just a lot of things to untangle. I honestly think that's it. And then we're already tired. So then it's like, you want me to do this work after work? And these people are driving me crazy, or I've got these huge goals I've been tackling. Like, this is too much. It's too much. So all of that's why I said it's myriad. Like, all of that and more is what's keeping us from engaging with support.
Y'all can't see this, but I'm like looking like a bobblehead, just like nodding here profusely, because yes, yes, and yes. And my gosh, like, when folks sometimes like just choose to not go towards this like really hard work, I don't even blame them.
Nope.
I don't. I'd be like, bro, yes, I see you. I get it.
Absolutely.
That's not my past, not my ministry, but I see you. I get it. It is so hard, right? To chart your own path, right? To chart the different paths. Like it's yes. Yes, 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 and yes. And as I was hearing you speak, I thought about surrender, right? And our, especially as Black and brown women, our relationship with surrender, right? Which is kind of what I took to, like, the way that I understood what you were saying around, like, how do you expect me to let go of this thing when it's like, this is how I've gotten here to this level. This is how I survived. This is my safety. And, I think that I'll probably do an episode on this at some point, but I do think that we need to talk a lot about surrender. Like I have a more nuanced, a more like flexible conversation around surrender and how much of it is needed to be able to really have the life and legacy that we want. I think sometimes people think that surrendering is like, you just like throw your hands in the air and it's like, oh, whatever, I'm not going to do anything. I'm just gonna, right, exactly. Like you're just in a roller coaster. The shit is just dropping and just like, oh, well, whatever. No. Surrender is such an active process, when I think that a lot of folks think that it is a passive one, right? That surrendering really, what anchors surrender is self-trust, right? That you don't have to have that like white knuckle grip anymore because you trust that you can figure whatever it is out that and not just like figuring it out from this very like logical, strategic, like divine masculine way, but from this very like I can feel into this, right? I'm inner resourced, right? Going back to what you were saying about the healing and the therapy, right? That I am inner resourced to know that I'm triggered right now. So I'm not going to respond to that text because I'm going to curse you out. Right. Like, you know what I mean? Like simple things like that, like self-trust is such a, I don't know. I've been talking a lot about it recently online and even with clients, but it's a theme that keeps coming up. And I think it's such a key to surrendering in a way that is intentional, right? That it's not just like, let whatever happen.
I 1000% agree with you. Yeah.
So, just like pivoting a little bit, no pun intended, I want to talk about pivoting and switching gears here. I've seen, because of my access to you and just like how I know you, I've seen how you've made some like really bold moves just like in the past couple of years, right? And not just like bold moves, but like really intentional moves in your career and in your business. And you talk about kind of embracing the pause, right? And embracing the change in seasons, right? You talk a lot about seasonality. And sometimes, I wonder if people feel like that message of like embrace the pause and there are seasons can feel incompatible with being a powerhouse, with being a leader, with being the CEO, right? How do you reconcile the two? Like how do you integrate the two? I know that you think that there's space for them, but like how would you talk about how there's space for both?
Okay. So this is another one of those things where, Josie called out, like, I don't even blame y'all for like, I don't blame the person who just can't, because sometimes we just can't. And as I've kind of shared about some of my, sort of previous learnings around myself that freed me up to make certain new decisions around like the definition of hustle and how I want to engage with like energetic exchange of what I give and what I receive and all that stuff. Like same kind of holds true here as well. Pivoting into more surrendering to a seasonality in my life came from getting knocked over the head, girl. Like came from getting knocked over the head. Have to be sat down a lot. And I like own that. And I think I do feel as though I've gotten better with this over time, with more awareness, with some more of that inner resourcing, where it's like the voices that used to be small that needed to be bigger are louder now. And so like they get more airtime with me, the voices that I want to be engaged with and following. I was in coaching, honestly. I think the first time that I really surrendered to a season of rest. I had this is like from my private audio newsletter. This is not a part of my podcast. You can't find this episode anywhere, at least not right now. Maybe I'll republish it. Anyway, there's a season of winter that I took at the end of a summer a couple of years ago. And I was like, this is my winter in, I think it was August.
I remember this.
Yes. And that came through a coaching conversation because I was like, the wheels are turning, honey. Like the business was booming. I had just gotten into a groove. I had a baby girl a couple, like maybe 3 years prior at this point, something like that. Maybe she might've been like 3 years old. So I was out of like the extremely new mommy fog. So it was just like, the stuff is clicking, let's go. And I had just had this big season of, let's call it harvest, right? And so I was like, I can see that we could double this. Like, now, like, let's hit it, like pour the gas on, let's go. but it was like my gut and my heart weren't fully in it, but my brain was just on it. You know what I mean? And so I'm having this conversation with my coach because it's so hard to see ourselves and it's so hard to embrace the things that we do see where it's just like, I don't know, can I trust that? Is that real? And my coach is like, baby,
hold up.
You know, we had to have one of them conversations. This is what a coach is for. And I challenged myself to take a month and to pause. Like, what would it be like to embrace that I'm in a new season? Because she basically helped me recognize that a new season was upon me. And so it was just like, what would it be like just to like go, just accept that and just see what happens? I fought it. But then eventually I didn't. And that 1 month turned into actually 2 months. And it was the first time I had ever done that. I didn't completely disappear, but it was like everything I was doing was probably scaled back down to maybe like 20-25% of my normal capacity. Yeah. And I was just walking around and thinking and crying and, you know, just, I don't know. And I had these major epiphanies and these like, and so I come back from this season 2 months later, right? And I look at my inbox. I've got big ass contracts. I've got like opportunities that I had never, and I didn't, y'all, I want you to lean in and listen to this part right now. Like, I did not have to hustle my ass off to get these things. It was like, we have to allow winter to come. It's already here. You can't actually stop it. All you can do is you can have a winter of fighting and it can last for a really long time, but you're still in winter. Or you could just be like, okay, it's time to like eat some carbs and put on a sweater and kick these feet up. Like, it's winter time, baby. Like, let it be winter. You know what I mean?
I cannot with it. I can't. But
so
you're right.
That's what happened. And because I learned that lesson and it was such a clear demonstration of like, your rest can provide, your provision comes through rest. Like, I was like, oh, so now I can smell winter coming around the corner. And I'm like, we're not gonna fight it because I don't have to think of myself as being like in the full driver's seat of all the things and like in this like controlling way of existing, because it's not real. It's all an illusion, you know, in my humble opinion.
No, you're right.
And there are greater things at work that ain't about me. And so when all the signs and signals, everything's telling me to sit my butt down, then we gonna sit. We gotta try.
Yeah.
So I don't pretend like it's easy, but I listen way more readily than I used to. So that is how I guess I've developed my relationship with like seasonality and learning to embrace the pivots that become possible through seasonality. So
it doesn't threaten your leadership, right? It doesn't threaten your power. Like, it doesn't threaten you at all. If anything, it's like it props you up.
It builds me up, and it builds up like the possibility around me, which is the thing that like I think we always think that we have to be in like on for things to be possible. And it's like, no, when a seed is planted, it grows without you. You know,
right. You don't have to micromanage the seed.
You don't have to micromanage it. Like you could sprinkle a little water on it, but the sun's going to do its thing. Like, you kind of, it's like at a certain point, you have to just wait and see and like stop making it about you. And it's true. Like, I get the best ideas for my business when I'm like frazzled and spun up. It's like, I have to go away. I have to stop. And then it's like the answer comes. It's the highest form of leadership, I think, is to respect these cycles within ourselves and to like, again, we're back to Josie's theme, surrender, you know? Wow. It's so real.
The highest form of leadership. It's another quotable.
Hey.
To get it somewhere. No, I listen, I think the ancestors are speaking through you, because when I tell you, this has been the conversations that I've been having with my friends, right? With my mentors around seasons and seasonality and like rest. And I mean, you already know this. I want to live up in the mountains.
Yes.
And roll down hills, you know, for hours at a time, and go to a lake and just chill. And like, that's all that I want, right? And you would have said this to me a year ago. I'd be like, girl, shut up. You crazy.
Come on now.
Right? but it is literally the best. I've always said that, like, we cannot be great leaders if we don't take care of ourselves. And this is like beyond self-care, right? I'm talking about like that nourishment that you're talking about. I mean, that's what I heard. This like self-intimacy, right, that we need with ourselves, even if it looks and sounds like crying and eating a bunch of carbs and I don't know, sitting crisscross applesauce on the rug, right? Like whatever.
Yeah.
It's just so incredibly important. And speaking of seasons, I had this idea the other day and I was just like, man, this has been percolating. And now that we're talking about seasons, I'm like, all right, I got it. Okay. And that's that I want to quote unquote work. I'm redefining and looking into my relationship with the word work, but it's a different conversation for a different day. But I think that I want to work according to the seasons. You're not going to find me January through March. Like, I am incomunicado, like, and gone, because it's like a seed, right? It's like anything that grows. It's like, it needs the time to just be chill. And, as the disruptor that I am, I think that would be like the biggest fuck you to the system. It's like, nope.
Sorry.
New year, that's not my new year. That's maybe your new year. My new year is in March. I don't know about you. Okay. Right? It's not January, but all that to say that, I don't know, this is giving me a lot of permission, even more permission that I think that I give myself naturally. And I hope that for the folks that are listening in, this also gives them permission to expand their thinking around how they want to lead their lives, right? Like how they really want to do the things that they want to do, how they want to cultivate the legacies that they want to cultivate, because you could do whatever you want. That's my thinking.
Yes. Yeah, I'm right there with you.
Awesome. Well, let's wrap this up. Let us know, where can folks find you? Please talk about your podcast, y'all. This podcast is so fucking dope. I swear. Like, and it's not just because I love you to pieces and you're a good friend, but that throat chakra.
Come on now.
That's your power, girl. That is your power. Like the shit you say, it's not shit, but whatever. It's me. I get you. Yeah. The shit that you say, how you say it, it's just, I don't know. It be hitting. It be hitting. And I know it's gonna hit for a lot of folks. But anyway, I'm gonna shut up. Let people know all the amazing things you're doing and where they can find you.
Thank you, Josie. So any compliment like that coming from you, like Josie is like, y'all, the fact that I know I'm supposed to be talking about myself, but just really quickly, like the fact that she has decided to give up herself through this podcast, it's like being invited into like the depths of a restorative and wise well of like, just girl, like I'm not going to get into the specifics, but Josie be knowing my life, be like, just whatever little whispers come to you through listening to this podcast, y'all take it with you, take it under deep consideration, okay? Because Josie be knowing some things. So anyway, I deeply appreciate your very, very kind words and your support. Okay, so y'all can find me pretty much just on IG. So it's Monique R Shields. Don't forget the R. And that's my handle anywhere at this point. And my podcast is called Ambition Without Compromise. So you can find AWC on any of the major podcast platforms. It's something that I feel really excited and blessed to be doing. And it is for us, for women of color in particular, who are trying to engage with the question, what do you truly want, in more bold and creative and honest ways?
Yes, honest. Woo! Thank you so much. I am so deeply grateful for your time and for coming on the podcast.
Thank you. This has been fun.